John Chubb was an amateur artist from Bridgwater in Somerset. He was born in 1746. His parents were Jonathan Chubb, a Bridgwater timber and wine merchant, and his wife Mary Morley. Young John had wanted to become a professional artist but was unable, but he kept up his work in his private time. Instead, he helped run the family business and took an active part in town politics in the Whig cause, and became mayor of Bridgwater in 1788. He was most notably active in the local campaign to abolish the slave trade. John's father, Jonathan, was the son of James Chubb and his wife Eleanor Venicott. He was related to the family of Thomas Chubb, the writer about religious matters, and through his mother to the mother of the actress and poet Mary Robinson. John's mother, Mary Morley of North Peverton, had links with a number of the local gentry, such as the Luttrells of Dunster. John had two sisters, one being Kitty, who married the Reverend David Webber, who was rector of Domer, Coomflory and Clatworthy, and his other sister Sarah, who married Captain Thomas Morris, who had been an army officer and was later known as a writer and poet. Sarah and Captain Thomas had 6 children. However, their daughter Sophia ran off with her music teacher, who later abandoned her. Captain Thomas refused to help her, and she ended her days in the Marylebone workhouse in 1807, aged only 37. In 1778, aged 32, John Chubb was made a burgess of Bridgwater and was elected mayor 10 years later in 1788. He was a radical and supported the Whig cause, and was active in promoting Bridgwater's anti-slavery petition to Parliament in 1785. He was a great friend of the Whig leader, Charles James Fox, and they used to meet up at the Pipers in Ashcott. Though Fox had little interest in the actual exercise of power and spent almost the entirety of his political career in opposition, he became noted as an anti-slavery campaigner, a supporter of the French Revolution and a leading parliamentary advocate of religious tolerance and individual liberty. And clearly Chubb was of the same mould. John Chubb was also friend of the writer and poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who lived at Neverstowe in the 1790s, and this was the most productive time for Coleridge, producing the lyrical ballads with Wordsworth, which included The Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Kubla Khan. John Chubb was also one of the promoters of the newly founded Bridgwater Infirmary, and served as its treasurer to the time of his death in 1818. John married Mary Wetherall from Wells, and they had 3 children, Morley, Lucy, and Charles James. The family business was in Fore Street, backing on to Binford Place, not far from the town bridge. The family business had several distinct sections. They sold wine and rum, most likely in small parcels from consignments brought to the port on other ships and rebottled. They sold brass, bells, tin goods, clocks, cabinets, ironmongery, cutler and pewter, which are all most likely made in the Black Country, perhaps in Bristol or South Wales, and brought to Bridgwater by Trow for resale. They also sold bar iron and steel, likewise imported, and they also had parcels of elm, oak and timber for exportation. The Chubbs most likely had an agent in London to obtain for him parcels of Baltic or Scandinavian or even tropical timber that was shipped to Bridgwater around Cornwall. An important part of this trade was the supply of staves and hoops for coopers, who made wooden casks, barrels, vats, buckets, tubs, troughs, and other similar containers from the timber staves. John Chubb died 2nd of February 1818 after an illness lasting 2 years. Of his children, Lucy and Charles James never married. Morley married Fanny Alford, and they later moved to London. They had 14 children, and of those who came of age, one was a lawyer, 2 were civil engineers involved with railway management, one in Britain and the other in Argentina, and a 4th grandson was for 50 years Secretary of the Bank of England. Fortunately for us, the family cherished John Chubb's papers and art. Nearly 400 sketches and finished drawings and a number of documents survived John Chubb's death and remained within the family. There are portraits of John Chubb's immediate family, portraits of Bridgwater worthies, unidentified portraits and topographical paintings. A number of the latter are by John Chubb's descendants. The manuscripts are mainly family letters, some from the 17th century, letters to John Chubb, and a few relating to his descendants in the 19th century. There are a number of John Chubb's commonplace books. These are a type of scrapbook and filled with items of many kinds, such as notes, proverbs, adages, aphorisms, maxims, quotes, letters, poems, tables of weights and measures, prayers, legal formulae, and recipes. Sadly, there are no diaries. The Blake Museum had long possessed a number of John Chubb's topographical paintings of the town, and from 1977, 60 of the portraits of local worthies had been on loan from the family to the museum. The family offered the entire collection to the museum, and in 2004, Blake Museum reached its appeal target of £123,000. A number of the paintings feature pretty girls in ornate hats. His portraits of tradesmen and craftsmen include their tools, rather like the Book of Trades from earlier centuries. There are more portraits than topographical paintings. Sometime in the early 19th century, lithographic prints were made of about a dozen of his paintings of Bridgwater scenes, and these were fully represented in the museum's collections. These were probably by his grandson, John Chubb the Younger, also a talented artist. A letter, in the Chubb manuscripts in the Somerset Record Office, which he wrote to his father, Morley, in 1835, mentions him having drawings reproduced as prints by Charles Joseph Hullmandel, the foremost lithographic printer of the time. The collection includes letters from Charles James Fox and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The manuscripts have been deposited in the Somerset Heritage Centre archive in Taunton, and transcriptions of them may be read on the website of the Bridgwater Heritage Group. The museum has a permanent gallery about John Chubb, his life and his work. All the portraits have been digitised, and prints may be consulted in albums there.